I'm not even going to try and work out the right way to start this video, to try and say sorry or offer condolences. I'm going to try and just stick to giving you some practical advice around what to do now. I know you are likely to be overloaded with professional services, people coming in to help and support. I don't want to muddy or cloud any of that. You don't have to pick up the phone or email me. If you want to, you can. My email is charlotte@letusnavigate.com. And if you want to just text someone and say help, my number is 07 484 315 219. I'm going to keep it brief, not because there's not lots to say, because I know you'll have loads of other things to do. I haven't been in your shoes, but I have been close. And as a young person experienced significant trauma and loss, here are some of the things that I wish my adults in charge had known when everything had gone wrong. So the first thing we're going to think about is memory. Right now, it will probably be a relief to you to know that you, nor many of the other people involved, are going to remember today or the days and weeks that follow. It'll all become a blur. Some things will really matter, and some of the stuff that you think matters now won't matter at all. But when you're months or years down the line, children, young people, and adults that have been affected by the trauma you have experienced today will need to understand what happened so that they can begin to process. That means right now, documenting everything really clearly, keeping reports and track of things, giving children, young people, and adults in your community the opportunity and encouragement to do the same really matters. Because 25 years on from my critical incident, I'm not sure what happened, who helped, what was said. I can't really remember the chronological order of things or where I was or quite what happened. And that's made it much harder for me to process trauma. If you are in a school, it would be useful to give people a notebook. Let them take account of what they're experiencing. They might want to keep that diary for the next 3 months, and then they might want to keep it somewhere for a couple of years. But when the media and social media have changed the narrative, when the story has moulded and drifted and become a version of Chinese whispers, that notebook, your accountability and reporting of what happened as clearly and objectively as possible will be really important. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is the media. The media is much more complicated now because of social media, but we're going to separate them. If you haven't got a press officer, if you haven't got the LA swooping in and taking over your media response, here is my advice on how you deal with the mainstream media. They are going to hound you until they get what they want. And what they want is a story and probably a photo. My advice would be that you work with them to give them what they need so they leave you alone. I wish we had factored into court cases, into funerals, a 10-minute window where we gave the media the photos and the opportunities they were looking for, rather than trying to keep them at bay and have an extra level of stress throughout all of those events. The media may be outside of your school or setting. They may try to pursue members of your community to get an angle or a story. I would contact a number of mainstream media and ask them what they want, ask them what it is they are after, and get that delivered so they get off your back. In making that deal, you should have the opportunity to look at final copy, select the photos they're going to use, and work with them to develop a narrative that will be supportive of your community. Developing that partnership, albeit brief, will help you shape what people understand about what has happened. You can share some of the note-taking, some of the reporting I mentioned a moment ago with them so that their reporting, their account of this incident is as near to true, fair and neutral as you can make it. I would let your families and communities know that this is the approach you are going to take with the mainstream media, and ask for the protection of your children and young people that families do the same. You will find some information to share about the media and how they might approach your families and recommended responses in the section below. Let's talk about social media. That isn't going to be something that you can control. No matter what you do or how much you worry about it, people are going to say awful things. People are going to attribute blame. And for a short time, this is going to gain momentum and feel all-consuming. It will pass, and it will pass far more quickly than you think it will right now. You need to stop people who are stoppable from going onto social media. You need to make sure that families have tools and resources to help their children and young people process what they see. Talk about what is being said. Talk about how that makes people feel. Give your children and young people opportunity to write to people, to share posts, to create posts back in response. They don't need to be sent. They can be kept in their diary or another journal. But we can't shy away from it. We can't pretend it's not happening. You need to look out for children and young people or families who cannot step away from social media, who become entirely consumed. Think about offering practical responses to managing. You will find those in the section below also. My recommendation would be to issue one statement and one image that you put out on social media. Disable comments, lock down your pages, and where possible, protect yourself and others by limiting yourself going down the rabbit hole. Try and protect yourself and others by limiting the amount of space, time, and attention you give to social media over the next few days. Try and build a protected community. Think about how you might create a safe, real space in your setting. Now is a time for your community to come together, and it will be far more beneficial if they do that in person, with the support of you and your staff, rather than on social media with the eyeballs of many people who are unconnected to this event. This will be much more beneficial to do in person with the support of you and your staff, rather than virtually with other people who are not connected to this event and will not be invested and sensitive in the same way. I understand that right now, this feels like your responsibility, your problem to solve. I get that you're going to feel like you need to have answers, a plan. You don't. The thing that people in your community and your children and young people are going to need most from you right now is the ability to be vulnerable. No one is expecting you to have the answers, and you can't put that pressure on yourself. People are going to look for care, compassion, authenticity, and a commitment to finding the way forward together. You're going to need to be willing to hear the voices of the families that are most impacted by this trauma. You're going to need to remember that trauma doesn't strike fair. So there will be some families and some children and young people who might seem less connected, less vulnerable, or less likely to have a significant response to this incident. that could be at the greatest risk of harm. People are going to want to hear that you will learn, that you will listen, that you will continue to lead, to support and do your best to guide your community and facilitate processing, grief, and ultimately recovery. You don't need to do that alone. You don't need to have all of the answers. I wouldn't go looking for something that is going to make things better today. If anything, your ability to feel comfortable, if anything, your ability to accept and be grounded in the level of trauma and challenge that you are experiencing and remain vulnerable, connected and compassionate throughout is what is going to matter the most. Whilst there is a temptation to control this yourself, to wrap your community around you and get through this, you are going to need to share your control settings with some other adults in your community. You may have a director of education, a director of children's services. You may be part of a trust. There will be adults in families who will feel that this trauma is theirs. You're going to need to use a bit of your systems thinking here, how you combine the need of the key individuals whilst creating a narrative and plan that works for everyone. What do people want? It feels a wrong time to ask that given what has happened, but the key adults involved in this trauma will have preferences around what is shared, what is understood, what is left as a legacy of their children, this event, and what happens next. It takes real bravery to ask, how are we going to respond to this, when actually where people are is, how do we make this not happen? It's a big job to have, but your job is to keep people together, focus on what is happening and ask, how do we do this as best as we possibly can? Think about some questions that you can give to the families. Let them respond in a way that suits them. It feels odd emailing. They might not want you in their home. They might not want to come into school. Perhaps it feels too personal to send a text message or WhatsApp. But maybe that's the only space individuals that have been most impacted by this trauma are able to engage. Are there a few words that you would like me to use to describe your child? Here is what I thought, or how I would describe your child. Is there anything you would like to change? This is the narrative I am going to share with our families. Are you happy for me to do this? Here is the version of the events I'm going to share with the media. Please let me know if there is anything you would like to change. It feels cold. It can feel robotic and like it lacks compassion, but that clarity, that is what people need right now, and they will look to you to deliver. Even though you are a victim here, even though this is a trauma experience for you, even though this is going to have a significant impact on your life, you need to find a way to keep your emotions separate from your leadership. You need to think about using emotionally safe, clear, and neutral language. You need to make sure that you provide safety, clarity, and direction. You can build your own network for emotional support, but keep that separate from your role as a leader, from your role in the community, today and moving forward. You may well need to have some difficult conversations in the future. ultimately you are going to have to continue leading a school that teaches, that supports children and young people. And although it doesn't feel like it now, you will want to move back to your role as a head and go about your business in time to come. So think about your language, script things out, use a trusted and reliable adult to make sure that you are bringing things back to your agreements, to key principles, and saying less rather than more. You have built the community and you will lead the community that will support one another. You need to protect yourself by building your own community, your own safe space where you are allowed to be a human and an individual rather than a leader and a head. Though it is tempting to cross the lines at this point, although I have said be vulnerable, you still need to think about being a leader. As I said at the beginning, if you need me, if I can help in any way, please get in touch. Use the resources, get through the next 48 hours. We can talk about what happens next, there on in, rely on your ed psychs, the support that will come from the community. Make sure you look after yourself. My top tips on managing this immediate trauma response: have a friend who knows one word. Help, SOS. Let them know what you need if you send that message. Is it a cuddle? Is it a break? Is it a walk? Is it an emergency? While you can, think about what you're most going to need from the people around you. Try and explain to your family, to your friends, how you think you might respond. What will you need from them? Is it space? Is it sitting under the sofa under a blanket and saying nothing? Is it long walks and talks? You might not know, but as you do, keep them in the loop so that they can support you. Sleep is going to be really important and often hard to come by. We need to reset our brain to access sleep. Temperature's a really good way of doing that. A really cold shower will reset our regulation system and give us a small break to allow us to access sleep. Weighted blankets, headphones, even with nothing playing. Make sure you eat. It's all about the basics, sleeping, accessible food. Make sure there's somebody keeping an eye on you, and keep communicating with what you think you need from the people that are going to help you through this as you take the very important and incredibly difficult role of leading others. I hope it's been useful and I wish you the very best.